Good evening. Tonight, we turn on one of the most consequential and volatile relationships in modern diplomacy, the United States and Iran. Now, once again, at the center of global tensions following President Donald Trump's latest speech, in which he signaled a mix of escalation, pressure, and possible back-channel diplomacy. To help us unpack what is signal, what is strategy, and what might simply be political theater, we're joined by a truly distinguished guest, Ambassador John Limbert, former U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Iran, a veteran diplomat and one of the most experienced American voices on U.S.-Iran relations. Ambassador Limbert also served as a professor of Middle Eastern Studies and is widely respected for his deep historical understanding of Iran and its political culture. Ambassador, welcome. It's an honor to have you with us.
Thank you, Mohammed. Always good to be with you.
Ambassador, let me start with the big picture. After listening to President Trump's speech, do you see a coherent Iran strategy or a mix of pressure tactics without a clear endgame?
Do I see a clear Iran strategy? No, I do not. But I did not see one from the beginning because goals were never laid out. It was never clear what he wanted to accomplish. It changed from day to day or hour to hour, and I heard the same thing. Now, if you have no goals, you cannot define success, because you can say, well, we did this, but then we didn't do that, so we in fact didn't want to do that, so we did something else. You know, it rather reminds me of the Marxist principles, and by Marxist I mean Groucho, who famously said, I have principles, and if you don't like my principles, I have other principles. So apparently the president has goals, but if he doesn't achieve his goals, then he has other goals. Now that's what I heard, in addition to the other incoherence and out falsehoods.
President Trump simultaneously talks about striking Iran's infrastructure and engaging in talks. Is this classic coercive diplomacy, or does it risk undermining credibility on both sides?
I wouldn't give the name diplomacy to what he is doing, coercive or any other kind. You know, diplomacy demands patience. It demands listening. It demands empathy, and it demands persistence. Now, I haven't seen any of those from our president. Frankly, what he believes in, I think, is not diplomacy. I mean, his tactic seems to be bullying. And if someone stands up to a bully, well, then he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know what to do. But his last two attacks on Iran, the earlier one and then this one, both came in the middle of call them talks or negotiations, but whatever it was. Now that is I don't call that coercive diplomacy. I don't know I'm not sure what it is. Bullying, perhaps, or simply being impulsive.
There are growing indications that Washington may be exploring contacts within the Iranian establishment rather than supporting opposition figures abroad. From your experience, is the U.S. once again defaulting to change behavior, not regime, even at this late stage?
That's a good question. Again, that's something else that puzzles me when he talks about a new regime. We're in contact with a new regime in Tehran. We're in contact with more moderate people, with more reasonable people. Frankly, I don't know what he's talking about, and I've never heard anyone else come up with it. I mean, the search for moderates in the Islamic Republic has a long and very sad history. We're both old enough to remember Iran-Contra in the mid-1980s, which was somehow justified by a search for so-called moderates within the Islamic Republic. So frankly, I don't know what he's talking about, but it seems at this point that he's put aside the idea that our Iranian friends, 90 some million of them, deserve a government that treats them more decently than this current one does. I didn't hear any of that. I haven't heard any of that in his recent statements.
That is very true, and pretty much everyone in the Iranian community is talking about it. It keeps talking about the new president and the more rational people in the regime. But what we are seeing in Tehran is actually the worst of the worst. I mean, even after Larijani, somebody like Zolqadr has been appointed to the Supreme Security Council. They're basically going back to their henchmen. But how close are we, in your view, to a miscalculation spiral where signals meant as pressure are interpreted in Tehran as preparation for full-scale war or invasion?
It's a good question. I don't know. I think we may already be there. It's when you don't talk to somebody, doesn't matter whether it's another country or your neighbor or even your brother-in-law for 47 years, when you simply can't talk to them, then you assume the worst about them. Everything that person they do or say is given the worst possible and the most hostile interpretation. And that's the cycle we've been in for a very long time. So in a sense, it really doesn't matter what he says at this point. And it doesn't matter so much even what the Islamic Republic says because of this failure, this inability to talk to each other.
Yes, that is definitely the norm these days between Tehran and Washington. Of course, there are many people who claim to be negotiating or lobbying with the Americans. We have the Dr. Zarif crowd and others, maybe Ghalibaf, but none of that can be substantiated. Trump suggests delaying certain strikes during talks. For example, he's delayed what he's promised to do, which is to strike Iranian power generation houses and whatnot. Does that signal restraint, or does it expose operational intentions in a way that weakens deterrence?
I think you got it exactly right. It's a measure of desperation. I mean, I used to quote the wonderful line of Sadi about the cornered cat, which its tiny claws can tear out the eyes of a leopard. And the Islamic Republic's reaction to the attacks by Israel and Iran were often that of the cornered cat. It lashed out in all directions, hitting Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, and so forth. And even Turkey, even launching a missile toward Turkey. But now, I think even Trump has become the cornered cat, and he has because he has painted himself into a corner. In the case of the Islamic Republic, maybe we put them in a corner. We put them in the corner, though they had something to do with it. But he's become the cornered cat, and now he's the what do you call it? Gorbe Ajez. He doesn't know which direction to go. He doesn't know which direction to go. So he escalates his threats, even up to doing things that are internationally recognized as war crimes.
Exactly. Even last night, they have attacked the Pasteur Institute in Tehran and also the Chalus Bridge, which is a civilian bridge connecting Tehran to the north of the country. And these all seem to have no military logic behind them. We are seeing signs of tension between Washington's more transactional approach and Israel's more maximalist military posture. How sustainable is that divergence?
It's a good question. It's a good question. Um, no, I mean, Israel obviously has its own agenda and its own policy. One was to drag the U.S. into an armed conflict with Iran by somehow convincing the president that Iran was on the verge of a nuclear weapon, on the verge of acquiring a nuclear weapon, which I understand uh, Prime Minister Netanyahu has been talking about for 30 or 40 years. Uh, but Israel seems to be the policy there seems to be quite explicit because they say we're dealing with a system, a regime, a government that threatens to obliterate us and has been doing so for 47 years now. So that justifies essentially turning Iran into a pile of rubble, if that's what we have to do to survive. And on the other side, on the Islamic Republic side, there seems to be this I detect a view, and you alluded to it a few minutes ago, that okay, you turn us into a pile of rubble, but we'll still rule. Even if it's a pile of rubble, we'll rule it. So go ahead, as the saying goes, go ahead, make my day.
Exactly like what Hamas has done in Gaza. I mean, Gaza has turned into a pile of rubble, but Hamas is still ruling the territory. And
Yeah,
so,
exactly, exactly. And what you see, what you see on the um, Israeli side, and it seems to be have been adopted by our president, is you simply don't consider second order, third order, fourth order effects of what you do. You bomb first, you bomb second, and you think of consequences never.
exactly, exactly. That is horrific from the Iranian public point of view. There is increasing rhetoric about targeting energy infrastructure or even controlling oil assets. I mean, last night, President Trump was inviting the Europeans to go and get your oil. We have decimated Iran and it cannot respond, so go and get your oil. From a diplomatic and legal standpoint, how explosive would such a move be?
Well, what I read him saying is, he said, okay, we've done what we're going to do. Now we're going to leave, and we're turning this whole mess over to you. I mean, essentially, walk away. You fix it. You need the oil from the Persian Gulf worse than we do, more than we do. But it's a world market. The fact that the U.S. might be self-sufficient in oil and gas doesn't mean still when you go to fill up your car, you're paying world prices. And it
Exactly.
doesn't matter whether that oil was produced in Saudi Arabia or in Texas or North Dakota. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But the president attended Wharton, the University of Pennsylvania, one of the great schools for economics in the world. I don't know if he understands that.
What does success even look like here for the United States? Is it a deal with the current system, strategic weakening of Iran, or something more ambitious but undefined?
That's a really good question. Having gotten into this without thinking of the consequences, um, maybe the best you can do is um, leave and declare victory, saying we've done what we set out to do. We've achieved our goals. And since you never had clear goals in the beginning, I suppose you could get away with that, because you could say our goal was to assassinate the top leadership. Well, our goal was to weaken the Iranian Air Force or the Iranian Navy. We've done that. Okay, fine. Now we're gonna leave. The fact that we're leaving a colossal mess behind with probably thousands of casualties, dead civilians, school children, ordinary citizens, seems not to matter. Frankly, I mean, I hate to be so pessimistic, Mohammed, but this is what I see. I mean, I would love personally, as would many other people, I think, to see some different kind of government in Iran, that doesn't slaughter its own people, doesn't slaughter its own people. But um, I don't know how that comes. I'm not sure how that comes about by bombing and assassinations.
Yes, the greatest fear that I hear from the Iranian community inside Iran and also in the diaspora is that they're fearful that the country would be left in ruins and the worst parts of the regime will remain in power, and that is the prospect we're looking at. Ambassador, you've studied US-Iran relations for decades. Does this moment remind you of any previous turning points, or are we in uncharted territory?
Well, it keeps reminding me, the more I think about this last 47 years, um, since 1979, and since things collapsed then, the relationship collapsed then. Um, it reminds me, Mohammed, of a Greek tragedy, in which the characters are cursed by the gods, and their fate is going to be catastrophic. And struggle as they might to escape their fate, they can't do it. And it may, at some point, it seems, well, maybe they can. Maybe they can get out of it. Maybe they can escape this fate, but they didn't. I mean, look, you had in 2000, you had President Khatami starting in 1997, speaking a whole new language in relation to Iran's foreign policy, including the United States, and for all kinds of reasons. That didn't change, that didn't undo the basic hostility. We remained at each other's throats. In 2015, 13, 14, 15, you had these negotiations leading, unprecedented level of contact between U.S. and Iran, between U.S. and Iranian officials, culminating in the JCPOA, the nuclear agreement, which was not perfect, but it was, for its time, was unprecedented, and was holding. And you would think, well, maybe there's a different way of doing things. Maybe we're making progress, but fate or the gods or whatever whatever reason, it didn't work. And we fell back into this pattern of exchanging threats, exchanging accusations, of exchanging insults. And we knew this one wasn't going to go anywhere, wasn't going to do anything for us. But two, we knew it was dangerous. And in a way, this awful war that we see today, which just makes me absolutely heartsick to watch, it's almost the inevitable outcome of 47 years of hostility. It just took the wrong combination of people to do it. I mean, and there's a lot of blame to go around. And on the Iranian side, why did they keep repeating these empty slogans long after they had gone stale? I mean, if they were in a supermarket, the inspectors would have shut them down because they were so stale. But 47 years screaming about the U.S. and down with the U.S. and down with Israel, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. It's going to lead to something. It's going to have. You can't do that without consequences. You can't just walk away with it. And on the U.S. side, refusing to practice basic diplomacy, which means finding some area of mutual interest, even with people you don't like, and with hostile states. We seem to have forgotten it. I mean, even during the Obama administration, when I was back in the government, it was with all of his intentions of outreach, it was very difficult to do anything, and to say nothing of the problems on the Iranian side.
Yes, it's very sad. I think it's a history of missed opportunities on both sides many, many times. And it has led to this mess, which could seriously impact the future of Iran and the future of the Middle East. Ambassador Limbert has the last question. If you had one piece of advice for decision makers in Washington tonight, what would it be?
Well, Mohammed, you know as well as I know that decision makers, whoever they are, and I'm not sure who they are, um, are not listening to me or to you or to people like us because many of us, Iranian, American, European, uh, Arab, others, have been working for decades just to prevent this particular outcome, this tragedy that we see that we see today. What would I say? What would I say? I would say what I've said for a long time, which is, first of all, before you do anything, consider the consequences, the first order effects, second order effects, third order effects, fourth order effects. I mean, I've served in my career. I served in both Iran and Iraq, so I have seen fiasco close close up and very personal sometimes. I know what it looks like. I know what it smells like. And this is fiasco. No mistake about it. Because people didn't consider the effects of their decisions. Jimmy Carter in 1979, President Carter, I'm a great admirer, whom I admire very much, did not consider the effects of his decision to admit the Shah, what it would do, or if he considered it, he put it aside. In 2003, President Bush didn't consider his decision on Iraq, the consequences of that. And we saw the results: the country torn apart, with ISIS in control of about a third of the country. So I would say, okay, consider the consequences. Do no harm. I mean, that's always a principle. The advice, which I have no illusions that anyone is going to follow, is use the tools of diplomacy, patience. You go once, you fail, you try again. You keep at it. You don't give up. You don't give up. You listen. You watch your words. Be careful of the language you use, because especially in a situation like this where you don't have a lot of you haven't had a lot of communication. Words carry power. I mean, President Khatami, I remember when he came in office, first thing he did was he said, "Look, we got to stop saying death to America. Got to stop saying that. Doesn't No purpose in it. What's the point? What's the point?" So yes, do that. Do that. That would be my advice. But I'm not so naive as to think people are going to take are going to take it. The only the only hope I have in this is that this, for the United States at least, this whole adventure is so unpopular and so unproductive, that it'll affect our elections and force the hand of the go, which I understand, how unfortunately is not the case in Israel. Well, according to what I hear, and my information is not perfect, but what I hear is that actually the attack was quite popular. Again, quite understandable given the history. But that would be my advice. It's not revolutionary, and I'm not so naive as to think that it's going to be that's going to be taken. But what's the saying we say in English? When you're in a hole, stop digging.
Exactly. Exactly. I I hope that someone who yields any power in the US administration takes your advice at heart, and hopefully cooler minds will prevail. Ambassador Limbert, thank you for your thoughtful and illuminating conversation and your clarity and insights. We are grateful.
Thank you, Mohammed. I wish I could be more optimistic or more cheery, but as I said, I'm very upset at what I see, and very worried for so many friends in the region, on all sides. So thank you for your good work too.
Thank you, sir. Until next program, goodbye.